Of course, since we all know why the president is bad president, it might be useful to explore how he is allowed to keep bad presidenting. Because you remember the crimes, right? There were crimes? Remember that? We had a whole impeachment over some of them. Remember the impeachment? The one where the president was, impeached? Trump has been impeached, like, for realsies. And that's not nothing. And worth remembering forever and ever. But also, it's kind of nothing. At least when you consider all the new shiny crimes the president has done since that thing where he was impeached. Crimes that we will now go over for your grim amusement in a segment called Trump Sure Learned His Lesson from That Impeachment. Yes, sir, he sure did. Glad that whole crime thing is settled once and for all. But you don't have to take my word for it.
I believe that the president has learned from this case.
What do you believe the president has learned?
The president has been impeached. There has been criticism by both Republican and Democratic senators of his call. I believe that he will be much more cautious in the future.
Thanks, Susan Collins from early February. You're so right. Trump, a man who looked directly into a solar eclipse after being told not to, totally learned his lesson from impeachment. No need to actually remove him from office because he's, sorry. Hey, let's see what Susan Collins from 10 Days Later has to say.
In light of the president's actions, do you think there's any lessons that he learned from being impeached?
I don't know which actions you're referring to. I've made very clear that I don't think anyone should be retaliated against. That has nothing to do with the basis by which I voted to acquit the president.
Oh, weird. So at the start of February, Susan Collins said the president had learned his lesson and would never abuse his power again. Then in mid-February, she seems to be totally avoiding talking about that thing she said 10 days earlier. I wonder what happened between the first day, Trump's acquittal, and this new, later day, not too long after that first day. Oh, right, he fired the people who testified against him 2 days after his acquittal, using his power as president in a totally not power-abusing way at all, because he learned his lesson, Susan. Right, Susan? Hey, Susan, you still think he learned his lesson about not doing power abuse things? Maybe we should ask you this every day of your career, and then after your career, and for the rest of your life. It must just be a coincidence that he fired the people who testified against him, something that the Republican senators who found him not guilty of abusing his power urged him to not do. And to be fair, and or balanced, and or who cares anymore, according to the National Security Advisor, Vindman, a decorated officer with a long history of accomplishments, standing up for what he believed in, wasn't fired. He was just moved from his job out of, in a kind of ejection, like a discharge from a gun, along with his twin brother, who was also moved out of his job, despite having no connection to Trump's impeachment other than, being the family member of a person who crossed Trump, and perhaps a good pressure point if you were trying to punish someone like some kind of obvious and cartoonish mob boss. Or maybe we're not giving President Trump the benefit of our doubt, and Vindman was fired because Trump, knowing his work, genuinely thought he was doing a bad job. Do we have a confession definitely saying that Trump actually didn't know him at all and fired him purely as retaliation for testifying against him? Oh good. There it is, literally a confession of abuse of power. The thing he was impeached for and then acquitted of because Republicans said he had learned his lesson not to do that thing he then did immediately after being acquitted. And that's the name of this horrifyingly depressing game now. Not only has Trump continued to do abuses of power and obstructions of justice, but has realized that he can also totally admit to it and see no consequences. And he is correct. The president is correct about a thing. Hooray! On February 13th, when meeting with New York Governor Andrew Cuomo to discuss lifting a travel restriction ban on New York residents, the President of the United States tweeted, "I'm seeing Governor Cuomo today at the White House. He must understand that national security far exceeds politics. New York must stop all of its unnecessary lawsuits and harassment, start cleaning itself up, and lowering taxes." And he spelled harassment wrong. Of course he did that. Anywho, so the lawsuits and harassment he's referring to are lawsuits against him, specifically over his tax returns. Remember those? The things where he has nothing to hide, but also still won't let us see and is going to court over protecting? Boy, it sure sounds like our president is saying that he won't work with Cuomo unless New York drops those personal lawsuits against him, doesn't it? Like a quid something something. Like a really blatant, easy to spot and prosecute quid something something, where the evidence is just the president saying it out loud. Only that won't happen, and we'll likely never hear about it again. Just like how we won't hear consequences over this story about how Congressman Dana Rohrbacher apparently told Julian Assange that on instructions from the president, we would pardon him if he said Russia had nothing to do with the DNC leaks, despite Russia having everything to do with the DNC leaks. It's another quid something something that Rohrbacher doesn't deny saying and has in fact admitted to, but is now claiming that Trump didn't tell him to do it. And hey, look, hey now, Trump says he barely even knows Rohrbacher, a man who is considered for his cabinet. It's, you know how Trump doesn't know all those crime people all the time and then is immediately contradicted with evidence of him clearly knowing the crime people he says he doesn't know, like some kind of compulsive liar the president is. And it used to be that we'd have to reach back in time to show this, but thanks to the whole acquittal, it seems that Trump has realized that he doesn't even have to pretend to not know crime stuff for all that long. Here he is back during the impeachment trial, talking to his fellow puffy harasser pal Bill O'Reilly about how he absolutely didn't direct Rudy Giuliani to go to Ukraine and investigate Joe Biden.
Well, you have to ask that to Rudy, but Rudy, I don't even know. I know he was going to go to Ukraine, and I think he canceled the trip. But you know, Rudy has other clients other than me. No, I didn't direct him, but he is a warrior. Rudy's a warrior.
Look now, hey. Trump didn't direct him to go to Ukraine, all right? Maybe it was just a personal hobby of Giuliani, or he was doing it for another one of his clients that wants to investigate Joe Biden for political purposes, you know? Hey now. So that was his stance, and part of his defense during the trial, which he was then acquitted for. And then 8 days after that said this.
Was it strange to send Rudy Giuliani to Ukraine, your personal lawyer? Are you sorry you did that?
Not at all. Rudy was a great crime fighter. You know that maybe better than anybody.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it's the president of a country literally confessing to a thing he said he didn't do days earlier as defense during a trial for a crime. People were like, hey, you did this thing that led to a crime. And he was like, nah, man, I didn't do that thing. You're crazy. And then a bunch of demented suits were like, yeah, we agree. He didn't do that thing. And then days later, he was like, oh, I mean, yeah, I actually did that thing. But whatever, goes. Thanks for the pass, Trump 2020. And then the world just kept on going, as if that wasn't totally messed up and enough to sink any other president before this forsaken year. For the people who've always understood the objective reality that Trump was guilty, but also realized that there was nothing anyone would do about it, this is probably no surprise. But it's kind of chilling to realize that Trump is also one of those people. He knows he's guilty, and he knows it doesn't matter. He's a teenager learning that adults can't legally hit you despite how much you harass them. A house cat discovering that no matter where it shits, someone will pick that up. Or a down-on-his-luck man realizing that the Great Lady Sea is the last haven of true freedom. God, I wish we did a pirate thing this time. My whole thing is pirates now. We read headlines about how the DOJ has suddenly reduced Roger Stone's prison sentence while the president and guy Roger Stone worked for and helped the campaign of tweets out a direct attack and obvious lie about the people who prosecuted him, causing them to quit the case. A bold-faced and undeniable act of obstruction of justice and corruption by the President of the United States in the light of day. And we hear about it and feel helpless to stop it, and know that most likely Stone will get a full pardon, because the GOP majority has made it clear that they are going to support Trump for obvious partisan reasons, no matter what he does, and we're apparently unable to stop them, despite them and everyone else knowing that they're all lying. It's fucking scary, and a clear indication that the system is broken. And even worse, when we can't even keep up with it. We're like Lucy shoving the chocolate into our mouths, but if the chocolate was also shit, Trump's shit. We're eating so much of it, all the time, until we die. Here's another story about how Trump hotels, you know, the hotel business our president runs, are charging the Secret Service, aka the taxes we pay, insane rates to stay at the hotel, which they have to stay at to protect the president, who owns the hotels. Remember how he's been violating the emoluments clause of the Constitution since day one, and yet that's still not a thing that has gotten him removed, even though it's more than enough? Again, all of everything I've just discussed came out in just the time since Trump was acquitted and then totally learned his lesson. This is all just the span of weeks, thanks to our newly empowered crime president. Wow, what a clip that was from the show. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe to this channel as well as our other channel where the full episodes are. It's called Some More News. This is called Some More News Clips, which you know because you just watched it. Anyway,